Hi everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios, and tonight what I'm going to show you is how to do the fancy shells and clusters border that I showed you in the other tutorial as a blanket border. So I'm specifically showing you how to work the corners. So the other tutorial kind of takes care of going through the motions of doing this actual stitch pattern. But what I'm going to show you in this one, and I've got part of it worked up so you can kind of see how those borders end up looking. I'm going to show you how you go about laying this out so that you can do a border on a blanket with 4 corners or more corners. The purpose of this one is specifically just your standard blanket border. So to kind of get started, I do want to explain that when you're doing your foundation chain 5s and setting up on the side of your blanket to do the border, you need 4 of these in order to, 4 sets of these foundation, we'll call them little foundation loops, the chain 5s. You're going to need 4 of them per pattern repeat. So to get this full pattern, you're going to have to lay out 4 of them. So when you're doing your blanket, the main tip I want to point out is you want to start by doing one side, and I personally would do just like I did here. Do your one side and then go ahead and start working out your shells so that you have a shell in the corner, and then make sure that you're going to line up or count it out. So you're going to need 4 for every single shell with its space in between and everything. You're going to need 4 of these to do this repeat. So this right here, from this point right here to right here, is a repeat. And if you look, there's one loop that I've worked this corner shell in. Here's my second loop, third, and fourth. So that's one repeat on it, and that's how you tell what you're doing when you're setting up your blanket. So in this case, I've gone ahead and I've worked down the side, and you're going to do the same thing. You can skip. In the original tutorial, I'm saying skip 3, but if your blanket's just not working out for you, where you're going to end up with the 4 of these spaces to work one repeat and end up with a shell in the corner, then you can reduce that to 2. And I've done that along this side just to show you what that looks like. If you look at the other tutorial, and I will link that below, you can see what it looks like when you do the 3. But right here, I'm just skipping 2. Just 2 spaces right there. Skip 1 because that may be an option for some of you. Really is going to depend on your exact measurements of your blanket, how this is going to work out. So you just do a small alteration to make this work for any blanket. I've done it on several, and I've had to adjust just in the same manner so that I end up with a corner that appears like this and my sides like this. And obviously this isn't completely, I haven't done the complete repeat on this. We're missing the cluster part of this, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is what it looks like for you to work up a corner. If you want to look right there, I've actually got 3 loops worked into this corner. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We are pretending like you've got your blanket almost, your side on your blanket almost done, and we're approaching the corner. And in this case, because of the way this was working out, I had to reduce right here to do 1 skip stitch, and then I did my single crochet here to lock it down, and then I do a chain 5, and I went ahead and I was able to skip over just another stitch coming here, and then I do another loop here in the corner and a loop here. So let me show you how that works out. So I've got 4 chains right now. I'm going to go ahead and do my 5th. So I am wanting to make absolutely sure that I'm going to end here in this corner and have a really pretty shell right at the corner. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to only skip 1 here. If your blanket's working out so that you can skip 2 or 3 and still end up coming up in the same manner where you're going to be able to go right into that corner space, then you don't have to just skip 1. You just kind of adjust for your particular project. So right here, I've got a chain 2 that is my corner. That's my turning chain to form the corner of this blanket. And this is just a little sample blanket. So I'm going to chain 5, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm right here at my corner. So I want to go directly into my turning chains at the corner and do a single crochet. and then I'm going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to go back into that same exact turning chain right here in that same space, and I'm going to do a single crochet again. And to keep your project even, because it's very possible that you're going to have to adjust as you're getting close and skip, a different amount of stitches than what you've been doing along here on the side. You're going to make sure that you refer back. I only skipped one here. So when I come over here on this side, it's looking like this. I'm going to only skip one stitch. And for me, that's this little stitch right here. So I'm going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to skip this stitch, and I'm going to go directly into the next stitch. And that is how I formed this little cluster of these chain 5 spaces so that I can have the corner look like this. So you're going to continue on down the side of your blanket. Depending on the number of stitches you have to work in, you are going to either be skipping anywhere from 3 to 1 stitch. 2 to 3 stitches skipped is preferable, so I'm going to work that out because we have a second option. If your blanket is it's not working out to do exactly what I've just done there, or maybe you don't want your corner to quite be as extended as this is, then we have another option, and that's where we work out to where we have a chain 5 right here at the corner. And if you look, I've gone directly over my chain 2 turning stitches here at the corner, and I've gone right before it, I've locked in, and right after it. So in this scenario, I'm going to work a corner shell right here. So we're going to go ahead and work on down the side of your blanket, chaining 5 and skipping anywhere from 1 to 3 stitches depending on the number of stitches you have to work through. And keep in mind, you're doing a repeat of 4 on these chain 5 spaces. You need 4 for every single pattern repeat to end up with an even number of shells and an even number of stitches to work in so that you can have your border work out just like this. So you're going to pause right here. You're going to go ahead and work down and meet me up at the next corner. Alright, so here we are back up here at this next corner, and I wanted to come back here to show you exactly what I'm talking about with the kind of adjusting here at the corner as you approach it. So I have been doing all the way down my blanket side, and I've been skipping 2 stitches because that seemed to be the magic number of stitches to skip here before I'm anchoring in. So, here, let me get in the camera, so right here I'm skipping 2 stitches, and then I'm anchoring in the 3rd. In the original tutorial, I was skipping 3 stitches and anchoring into the 4th, but I've had to adjust the work with the blanket that I'm making. So what I've got down here is I'm approaching my corner, and I have my chain 5 space already in this corner in this situation. And if you look, if I were to skip 2 stitches, I'm going to end up right here. But when I go back here and I count my loops that I've made to lay the foundation for the border, this right here is the corner. This is where my shell is going to be. So we're going to consider that to be the end of our repeat for this particular. And we need 4 of them. So right here on this side, this is my 4th. This is where my shell is going to go. So I'm going to count from here over in multiples of 4 to see, am I going to end up with enough of these chain 5s to make an even border. So when I did that, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my 2nd repeat. Now I'm 1, and I'm looking here. I don't need just 1. I need to actually fit in 2 more. So here's 1. So this is a situation where I'm just going to skip 1 stitch right there, and I'm going to go into the very next one. Now I've got my 2. Now I'm going to chain 5 again, and I'm here, and I've got where I can skip over this stitch and do a slip stitch into here to finish this out, and this is my 4th. So this is 1, 2, 3, and number 4 being where I want to put my shell. And that's how you're going to make sure that you're lining up right. And if you look at this, let me go ahead and like fan my little loops out. You can't tell, and once you get the rest of the pattern on and do your shells and your anchor down stitches, you are not going to be able to tell that I skipped less stitches here. So it does hide itself within the border of your blanket, and it's nothing to worry about. Everything is not always going to work out perfectly in crochet, so you have to kind of learn how to adjust and hide those little things so that nobody can tell. So now I slip stitched in to get into this chain right here. I'm completely laid out to be able to do the rest of my border all the way around. And you're going to continue in that same manner. So you've got this option right here where you're squeezing in 3 stitches into the corner, or I'm sorry, 3 chain 5 spaces into the corner area so that you have a shell right here and end up with something that's elongated and looks like this. Or you can do a little simplified version where everything's worked out perfectly for you, and you're just going to have a chain 5 that goes over the corner of your blanket. So in my case, this is my chain 2 turning chain for my corner to make that nice little crisp edge that I like to see. And I'm going to place my fan right over that and continue on. So it's not going to look exactly like this. This is a little fancier version, we should say, and this is a simplified version. Either one of them can be used. It's going to depend on how your blanket's working out. So if you are working on a border right now on a blanket, you're going to want to go ahead and pause me here, finish getting all of your chain 5 loops placed on to the edge of your blanket, and then you're going to come back and we're going to work on how we go about doing this fan here in this corner over here. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works out. All right, so here we are, approached up to this corner, and I've stopped so that I can show you guys as we're getting up here exactly how we're going to handle this. So I've done my shell right here, and I'm starting my new repeat. I've done my single crochet. I've got a chain 5 on my hook, and I'm going to do a single crochet into the next chain 5 space to anchor that down. Now I need to do one more chain 5, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to come right here, and now I'm at the corner. So if you take a look, I'm right here at this corner, and I'm going to do my chain 5 anchored down because we've got 2 of those in between these shells, this first round of shells. And now I've got my 2, so this is the beginning of my repeat, 2 of these chain 5 spaces. So my next move is to do a shell, and this has landed where I am directly in the corner, exactly where I want to be. So this is option 1 on doing this border as a blanket border. I'm going to go ahead and do my 9 double crochets right there in that chain 5 space from the previous row. I'm at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And now I'm going to go ahead and anchor down. We're finishing out this corner, so I'm going to go ahead and anchor down right here, and then I'm going to start my next repeat on this pattern and do a chain 5, and I'm going to go directly into the next chain 5 space and do my single crochet to anchor that down. I'm going to chain 5 again, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to go directly into this next chain 5 space and anchor that down. So here's my first one, doing that 4, the repeat of 4. So here's 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one is going to end up being my shell. So we're going to go ahead and do that together. And then we're going to get over here and we're going to work our way into this next corner. And this is option 2 on the corner, the way that you can handle your corners. And this is where it's just a simple shell, same repeat that you've been doing all the way around the blanket. You're going to do that shell in the corner, nothing extra, nothing fancy. It's not going to pop out more. I prefer the popped out more method. That's my preferred, making it look like this. I like it. It just adds something, in my opinion. Makes that a really defined corner. I just like the way it looks for my personal, but not everybody likes that. And I've done them where they're just simple all the way around as well. So it's really up to you and what you want. But you're going to go ahead and work the rest of the way down the side of your blanket, putting in your shells, 9 double crochets to form your shell, doing your 2 chain 5s across these chain 5s from the previous row, and you're going to meet me back up at this next and last corner that we're going to do together so I can show you the simple shell right here in the corner. So go ahead and pause the video here and continue to work on down your blanket if you're working on one at this moment watching this, and start back up when you reach your corner. Alright, so here we are back together again, and we have worked down the entire side of our blanket, and we have reached our corner, and this is our simplified corner. And if you look right here, I've got my shell that I formed with my 9 double crochets, and I am about to do my second chain 5 anchored in. So that means I'm here at this corner now, and I'm ready to do another shell. So I've worked it out so that I end up with a shell in every single corner. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with you now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that's what we have. So, just like we were doing, nice and simplified, it's going to look, let's get in camera again. Sorry, guys. I'm trying. I promise. We're going to go ahead and anchor this down the next chain 5 space. And then we're going to continue on down our next side of our blanket, doing the exact same thing we've been doing so that we have a nice, even pattern. And I'm going to just do a few so I can lay this down and show you what your work's going to look like. So I've got my 2 right there, shell here in the corner. I'm going to do one more shell before I lay this down to show you what this corner ends up looking like. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I know I'm going very, very fast. If you did not watch the other tutorial that is just simply showing you how to do this border, it's slower, I believe, and a little bit easier to follow, especially for a beginner. So I do recommend you watch that. And if you are doing this border on a blanket, that's where this video is meant to help you. So this is what you would look like. Let's anchor the stitch down real quick. This is popping up looking silly. So let's take a look. Let's hide my tails. Alright, so this is what the border is going to look like if you do not do the fancy side like what I have opposite of here, which is this side. So me personally, I mean, I love this, but I'm going to do on the other side as well, the row 2, and I'm going to go ahead and do our row 3 on this to do the cluster part of this so that you can see exactly what it's going to look like. This is just to show you how to work those corners. So I do want to give you the 2 options, the way that I use this, and then I'll give you another little tip after we've got a little bit more of this done. As you can see, I've got quite a bit going on here. I've got my 2 sides on this one side that are going to work out like this, and then my other side it's going to work out like this. So you're going to really enjoy this on a blanket. It does turn out really nice. I am hoping that what I've shown you is kind of answered any questions you would have, but we're going to work up real quick one of these fancy corners and then one of the plain corners so that you can have a final look at what this border looks like. So you can continue to work on yours, and I'm going to pause for the calls real quick, and I will be back in just a moment to show you what it looks like to work this up. Real quick, I just have one more tip before we go on to working this up. So I lied, we're not back there working on round 2 yet, or well, I guess that would be round 3, honestly. We are setting up so that I'm at this corner, but we have a problem. We've worked down a long side of the blanket, and I do not have enough space to do 2 of the chain 5s in this scenario. So how I handled this, and it happened to me as well on a blanket that I did, is I'm going to do the 1 chain 5 space. I actually did the anchor right here in this shell. You will not be able to tell as you get the border finished up. It's not going to show. And so I did my anchor right here into the same space that I worked up the shell. And then I did a chain 5, and I'm anchoring right here. And now I'm at my corner. So I'm going to go ahead and do my shell right here with my 9 double crochets. And then I'm going to have enough room to do 1 more chain 5. So in this scenario, it just didn't work out that you got to that corner and you didn't have enough space for the 2. It's perfectly acceptable. There's a good workaround for that as well. So I'm trying to kind of cram all the possible options into this one tutorial for you so that you know exactly what to do when you're working on yours, and either things work out perfectly, that's great, or they don't. And I'll show you how to handle it, because nobody wants to pull out all of this work that you've done all the way around if there's a simple way to work around it that's completely hidden within the border. It will not mess up your blanket, I swear to you guys. So I'm at 8. I need 1 more right here. So I've got my space right here next to my corner. And I want to make sure that I'm going to have room in here to at least have 1 anchor in this scenario. So I'm going to anchor into that next. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And right here is my other chain 5 that's kind of cheater chain 5. So, oops. I want to go through and kind of do a slip stitch right underneath it to tie that together. You can tell what I've done because I've got different color yarns going on. In a normal scenario, you would be joining up to the same color yarn for that particular row. So we are going to now move on. I'm going to tie off. And just to show you what I do to tie off, just in case you're curious, I do 2 chains, then I clip my yarn, and then I pull it nice and tight after I've pulled my loop on through to take my hook off. Then I grab right above, right here above the 2 chains I made, and this is how I break my nails a lot, and I pull down. And then when I weave that end in, I do that again, usually on the back side of the project or somewhere where I can kind of hide it and kind of stretch and it'll just disappear within the stitches. That's how I tie off. That's how I make sure that things don't come undone. So now we're going to start over here at our fancy side, and we're going to do, this is our border, or I'm sorry, our corner that pops out. So this is our kind of more elongated, popping out corner. So I'm going to show you what you do to work that bad boy. 1 second. I am grabbing my yarn and getting myself situated. I'll pause real quick. Alright, so now we're really ready. And so we've approached our corner, and we're going to go ahead. We have a chain 5 after we've done our fan with our double crochets separated by 1 chain. And we've done 9 of those, 1 into the top of each and every double crochet from the previous row. And we are anchored down here into this chain 5 space. And we've done a chain 5. We're going to anchor here, and we are back up here to our corner, our fancy corner, for our fancy shells and clusters border. And we're going to go ahead and start doing our double crochet chain 1 to work the 3rd row of this border. So we're going to do one stitch in the top of each and every stitch from the previous row, separated by a chain. And then we're going to immediately, for me, switch over to the next yarn, and we're going to finish it out. And I'm going to show you how it finishes out. Because at this stage, you know which one you're doing. We don't need to go down the side. You've either chosen to do the fancy kind of pop out corner, or you're just staying simple with it, which is also wonderful and beautiful. We're going to check our count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm just going to go ahead and anchor this down, and I'm going to do one more chain 5 just so I can show you all a pretty little corner when we're all done. I'm going to anchor that down over here. Oops. Finish that single crochet. And now I'm going to pop this off. I'm going to put in a stitch marker because I am actually going to be giving this little mini blanket as a doll blanket to my little 4-year-old niece, Sweet Tea. That's going to be her YouTube name. She really wants to be on YouTube. So we came up with the YouTube names because my sister's really, privacy is a big thing to her, and I completely understand that. So little Miss Sweet Tea is going to get this for one of her baby dolls. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my next yarn. And I'm going to come back here to this shell and show you how to work up from here through the corner. And let's grab my other yarn back right here. Let's go ahead and get that on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and slip into this very first stitch on the shell. 2 and 3. So this is where my clusters begin. So I'm going to be doing my cluster stitches. These are double crochet clusters. And on the normal, you would have a working piece of yarn, a working loop already on your hook. So you would end up with 4 loops on your hook before you go ahead and pull through. So I'm going to do that in this case as well, just so I don't cause any confusion. So I've got 4 loops on my hook. I'm pulling through all 4. And now we're going to chain 3. We're going to skip. Let's make sure we identify our stitches really good. We're going to skip this next one and go over here into this 3rd stitch, and that's where we're going to do our next double crochet cluster, just like so. And again, in the full length tutorial on this is a border. It is slower. I explain a little bit better, so please feel free to check that out. And we're going to go over here, skipping a stitch, and do another cluster just like so. And we're going to keep doing that till we get back over here to our corner. Skipping this one, going in here. Oops. Just like so. You can fast forward through this if you don't need this portion of this. Feel free to fast forward. I'm going to skip this one, move over here into this one. This is my last cluster for this area. Now here we are where we're at this chain 5, and the way that I like to do this is to chain 3 and do a single crochet right here into this chain 5 space. Then I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to start, I'm right now to my corner, so I'm going to go ahead and start doing my clusters right here in the first stitch. So I'm doing my first one, 1, 2, 3 in between, skip the next stitch, go over here to the 3rd and do another cluster. 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip the next stitch, go over here into what I think is the 5th stitch, and undo another cluster. I'm losing count. And I'm going to chain 3, skipping this next stitch, going into this one, and then we're going to be laying this down just in a second so you can see how this border looks in the pop out fancier version, so you know which one to choose for your blanket that you're working on. Try not to grab extra yarn that you don't need, extra stitches like I just did. 1, 2, 3, and I'm coming down here to anchor, and this is how this ends up looking. So it works out really, really beautifully. I really like this with a pea coat on top of all of that. That's, you know, it looks really pretty. If you want to pause one moment, I'm going to go ahead and get flipped around here so that we can work on, not that corner, this corner, one of the plain corners, and I'll show you how that works up. So I will be right back. Alright, so we're over here to the corner where things didn't work out. That's the corner where we were only able to squeeze in 1 chain 5 space instead of the 2. So we're missing this. We're going to be skipping this where we've done a chain 5 and locked down to these 2 chain 5s from the previous row. So in this case, all we can do is anchor down our shell right here, and that's perfectly fine because I'm going to show you how we hide that in our very next part of the border. So you just anchor here and immediately go into working on your double crochet chain 1s for your corner. Don't worry about the fact that we don't have an extra space here because we're basically going to omit this right here. We're going to omit that when we get around here to work the shells, or I'm sorry, the clusters on top. We're going to go from this cluster without chaining anything over here to start this cluster. So it's going to essentially bring it like this. Let me see if I can pinch that a little bit better and show you. It's going to bring it like this, and that also works out great as well. I'll do it up real quick to show you so you can see if that's your scenario and it worked out like that for you, exactly how to handle that. Give me one moment, and with the magic of YouTube and pausing the camera, I'll come back and show you that scenario real fast. Alright, so what I'm showing you right here is, let's say you had to do quite a few adjustments. You had to scrunch in, you know, or go in less, skipping less down here when you were laying your original foundation chain 5s. Your other option is to omit this portion right here completely and skip the chain 3 single crochet into this chain 5 space on the previous row, and just go from doing your cluster immediately into a single crochet in that chain 5 space, and then start your cluster on the other side immediately. And that way, if you are having where your border is starting to kind of crinkle up, it's maybe you want it to be a little tighter, you don't need it to have so much give around the edges. This might show you a little bit better right here. So let's say we're in a situation where you're feeling like this is starting to kind of get wavy or something like that. What you would want to do, and you'll know that very quickly, by the way, what you would want to do in that scenario is just omit the chain 3 single crochet chain 3 and just do a single crochet right there into that space to anchor that down. That will then kind of draw your border in and keep it from becoming wavy. Sometimes that will happen. I typically do my borders with a smaller yarn than what I'm using in my project, so that's how I avoid having that problem. If you are finding that you're having that problem, you're using the same size yarn that you used in your blanket for your border, because a lot of us do that as well. You can just omit that and it will work out really nicely. I'll do a few more stitches so we can lay it down and look at that. 3, skipping 1, going over here, 2 and 3, chain 3, skip 1, go over here. Now I'm at a corner. I'm at a normal corner. I'm at an everything worked out great corner, and you just have one simple chain 5 that loops over your turning chains in your corner. We're at that stage on this piece. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, yarn's gotten a little tangled up. Gonna go ahead and skip the next stitch and go into this stitch, doing another cluster. Oops, don't pull through too many. And we are about to lay it down in just one moment. Kind of fighting with my yarn a little bit here. I've got one more that I'm gonna do so that I can lay this down and show you how this works out in this case, where we have a simple run-of-the-mill corner, just a chain 5 right over the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and anchor this down so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm not doing any chains. I am just simply doing a single crochet, and then I would come over here and immediately begin my next cluster. So that is more for you very beginner crocheters that aren't sure of everything that I'm talking about. I have a knot now on my yarn. I apologize. We're going to just work right up against that so that we can lay this down. Alright, so in this scenario, get this yarn out of the way. In this scenario, we had a perfect just chain 5 right there in the corner. Tuck that. Chain 5 right there in the corner, so it worked out great. And we're omitting our chain 3 single crochet so that it stays nice and tight and lays nice and flat. So that is all the options that I can give you to make this border work for any and absolutely every blanket that you've worked on. You can add a peacoat vinyl border to this to give it more of a finished look. If you choose to do that, I always make my peacoats land at the top of the clusters. It is completely up to you. So hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully you found it helpful in doing this border on a blanket. As always, you can contact me. My email address is below in the description. As mentioned, I will also have the link to the slower tutorial on how to do this border down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.